Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Barry with Paintball Dev. For those of y'all who don't know me, I'm a web developer, app developer, hardware developer, user interface developer, user experience developer, and a software developer with over a decade of experience building all sorts of stuff for all sorts of people in all sorts of industries. Additionally, being the curious person that I am, in addition to the massive amounts of medical debt I'm in, I've taken on all sorts of jobs outside of my industry, from handyman construction work to yard work to make ends meet, or more often than not, to fund my various obsessions, like paintball. One of the jobs I worked was for an event company in Salt Lake City called V2 Presents. I worked with those gentlemen for almost 6 years, following them from more humble points in their journey until I eventually left when they were selling out every event they ever put on. I worked my way up and eventually started managing their street promoters, which gave me access to information that most people would never see, which gives me a different perspective on the current situation in the paintball community concerning the National X-Ball League and prize money. I want to talk about the NXL first from a business perspective because it probably doesn't seem like it, but I don't hate the league. I don't want it to seem like yet another NXL bashing thing because I have a pretty good idea what they're going through. So let's put things into perspective. Fundamentally, the NXL is an event company, which means that they get paid a limited number of times per year, and because of the venues they select, they can only run it for so many days. They have a limited amount of space at each venue, so they can only have so many fields and therefore can only support so many people. In other words, they're on a fixed maximum income. But none of that is guaranteed. I usually think of event companies as high-stakes gambling because between weather and politics, the event can flop hard, and regardless of how your event does, people still have to be paid. It's akin to roulette, where each slot can add to or subtract from the money you bet, but the wheel has whammy slots where you lose everything. The first festival V2 ever did was DOS Energy, and it was a complete bust. The lineup was weak, they had oodles of competition that weekend, and to complicate matters, the festival was partially held outdoors, and guess what? On the day of the event, it rained, and it was so windy that many thought it'd be canceled. V2 lost so much money on that event. And if they hadn't have had a rainy day fund, pun intended, they probably would have folded because guess what? The venue still had to be paid. Artists still had to be paid, staff had to be paid, etc., etc. That's why I refer to event companies as high-stakes gambling, because you got to put the money up first and pray the event goes well. And even if it does, by the time everybody gets paid, you tend not to make all that much. Like, you'd be surprised to learn just how little money even a massive company like V2 gets to actually hold on to by the time everyone is paid. So I say all that to say this. Just because V2 made $900,000 from tickets for DOS Energy doesn't mean that by the time everyone got paid, they saw even a fraction of that. And before I get sued by V2, like Jeremy, don't sue me yet, this number is just a product of the projected number of attendees and the mean ticket price of $100, which factors in things like early bird pricing, last minute prices, parking concessions, alcohol sale kickbacks, and all that other stuff, right? The NXL is in the exact same boat. So if another Category 5 hurricane rolls through Texas during the next NXL Dallas and creates a situation where it's so windy, so rainy, and tornado-y that it forces the NXL to cancel the event, they'll get out of paying staff, sure, but that's the cheap part of the equation. Everything else still has to be paid for, whether they make money or lose everything. Even Paintball Dev has a rainy day fund, although we don't have any expenses. Because we're all software professionals, so all the money that we make just goes to us, right? We don't have to pay anybody to do this stuff. But this is America, and you can get sued for shooting the guy that broke into your house, even in Utah. So we have more of a war chest. But either way, a smart business has cash on hand to survive hard times, because no matter how well you do something, even if you do everything right, shit happens. And Tom doesn't strike me as stupid. So I bet that because he's doing not just one event, but a series of events, he knows damn well that you need to have cash on hand, not only for the event, but the next event, along with all of the storage, staff, and logistical expenses that go with it. So even if the NXL makes $50,000 in profit off of NXL Vegas, by the time they pack up and transport everything to a storage or staging location and then move it to the next place, they can easily be down to $10,000 in profit by the time it's all said and done. And because I know Tom Cole isn't stupid, I bet that money is going into some sort of rainy day or savings fund. So with all that said, it's completely possible that the NXL is doing the best that it can. The prize money that the winning teams do get could be coming out of someone's savings account with the hope that the sport and the league grows to the point that they'll eventually get a return on it. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's happening at the NXL, and I'm not saying that that isn't happening, but it's possible. And in my experience, it's very possible. But on the other side of the issue, I completely understand about the prize money situation as well. I played X-Ball last year, and it's an immense amount of money, time, effort, work, dedication, and sacrifice to get your ass whooped. I worked hard to lose last year, so I can only imagine what it takes to get all the way to the top, especially at the higher levels like, Division 3 or semi-pro. If I did all of the hard work to win and I just get my entry back, I'd be a little upset too. But beyond just that, the current situation for teams is unsustainable, partially because of how difficult it is for even winning teams to get outside sponsors to offset their costs and therefore partially need decent winnings to continue their program. The proof of this problem came when Aftermath was in serious trouble this year because their primary benefactors stepped away from funding them. This is the same Aftermath that was wrecking shit in the semi-pro division all last year. I mean, they were unstoppable. And yet with all of their winnings from the entirety of 2018, they still couldn't afford to play in 2019 without some serious financial backing. So having said all that, here's what I think, all right? To be frank, this should have never even gotten this far. And it's the industry leaders who are mostly to blame for the persistence of this problem. Simply because they have the biggest reach, they have the most influence, and therefore they could have easily calmed the crowd with one Facebook post. But instead, the majority of the industry leaders opted to poke at and provoke their customers for bringing up the problem at all, which only fanned the flames and empowered a growing number of discontented players for all missteps taken not only by the NXL, but the industry itself. This is evidenced by unaffiliated paintball satire pages like Paintball Inquirer. So at this point, I don't think that this is going to be another one of those things where the community just forgets about it and the NXL and its partners can go back to doing business as usual. There was probably a point where that could have happened, but we're well beyond that now. So here's what I think needs to happen. I'm not saying this will fix things. I'm not saying it'll stop people from complaining because they won't. That's the nature of doing events, but this is what I think. Tom Cole at the NXL should release a statement, preferably text only with comments disabled, directly addressing the issue. Explain the realities of his company, apologize for the lack of transparency, and at the very least, assure everyone that he is actively looking into the problem. I mean, even if he isn't, just tell people that you are so they'll shut up. If the NXL is scraping along, doing the best it can, and is still trying to get on its feet as a company, because they're relatively young, then just say so and ask for everyone's patience while solutions are explored. Hell, even appoint someone to explore possible solutions to the problem so that people can talk to them and you're not getting in your feelings about people saying that you're doing a bad job when you're just doing what you can. You feel me? Don't call the complaints silly. Don't complain about the complainers because frankly, that's what you sign up for when you start or take over an event company. Even people who do free events catch heat. It's the business. The reason why I put all this on Tom is because whether he likes it or not, he is the face of not only the NXL, but also all of the companies that support his league and post about his league on their pages. So whether he wants that responsibility or not, it's his. And information and understanding is a powerful thing. I used to think that the V2 boys were rich as shit, and I hated them for their, quote unquote greed and lack of caring about our lowly street team promoters, until I worked for them and saw how things really were. The NXL doesn't have to give us an exact number, although admittedly, I'm curious about all the logistics of paintball tournaments to the point that I'm creating an itemized estimate based on the infrastructure and staff I've seen at event photos. So it'd be cool to know how much goes into it, but even a vague percentage is good too. Like if Tom writes up a post and says, look, by the time everybody and everything is paid for, the company is keeping less than 5% of what it earns, and that money goes into the war chest in case we get sued, we have to cancel, the Dow takes another jump off the cliff, or something else. There'll still be upset people, but the majority of people will understand and be placated simply because they can see that at the very least, the company is trying, feels their pain, and is in pain too. I know this because I used to manage a field here in Utah, and the number of complaints that I saw, at least, right? I mean, people talk behind your back, but it is what it is. But the number of complaints that I saw about the field itself dropped drastically once I took over management and was being just open with everyone about the realities of the business. Then the conversation changed. It went from people being upset to understanding that, look, we're just scraping along too. But here's the crazy thing that happened. More people wanted to help make the business successful because they realized that we were just scraping along like everybody else. And that the only way that we all benefit is through growth for everybody. Because when you treat people with respect and compassion, they'll follow you into the depths of hell, even if you can't provide everything they want. As Sun Tzu said, treat your men as you would your own beloved sons, and they will follow you into the deepest valley.